Hey, this is Brock Lemires, and in this video, we're going to look at command line navigation in the Linux environment on our CSCI 109 server. Okay, so if you recall, we'll kind of start from the beginning here. I'm going to move this over so I can have room for my cursor. We are going to do everything on this Linux server called csci109.cs.montana.edu, okay? And we are going to access it through what's called an SSH, which is called a secure shell connection, and we're going to launch that from our Windows machine. Okay. On Windows, we will launch a command prompt, and let's do that. So I go over to Windows and I type CMD, and here is the command prompt. Okay, so it's enormous. Let's go ahead and make it just a little tiny bit smaller. So now I've got this thing that's sitting right there. Let me move it down. Yeah, I'll leave it right there. Okay, so I'm in Windows right now. Okay, if I want to SSH into this, I can type SSH. But remember, you have to have a VPN running anytime you use SSH into the server because of cybersecurity issues. So I've already installed my VPN. Make sure that you connect. It has dual authentication and you're up. Okay. So I'm in Windows right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to SSH over and then play around with some commands in Linux. Okay. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to go SSH CSCI 109. Or excuse me, totally mess it up. You do your net ID, K91H784 is mine, at CSCI 109.cs.montana.edu. I hit it. It says password. Type in your net ID password, and you are now in. Okay. So now I'm sitting here and I can do a couple commands that were the same as in command prompt. I'm going to do who am I? Well, that's me. I don't know whose server I am. I kind of have an indication right here, but if I do host name, then that gives me the CSCI 109.cs.montana.edu, and I am in Linux. Okay, so here I am. All right, now let's take a look at some of the common commands that you can use. Over here in Linux, to clear your screen up, you do clear. That is different than CLS in command prompt. But it's a little more intuitive, I think, in Linux. But clear is really good. So you hit return, you're like, oh, there's too many of those cleared up. Okay. Who am I? Works the same. It tells you your net ID, host name, which we just did. That's very handy. And then to know your present working directory or your current directory, you simply type present working directory. And now look at this. I am in /home/K91H. /home on Linux is where all of the user accounts are. So if I'm looking at this is my home directory is what they call it. Okay, so let me do this, come down here. I'll clear this, I'll move this over since we've already covered these ones. And so if I'm in here and I say, okay, I want to see what's in here, I can type LS, and that stands for listening. Similar to dir in command prompt, but it's ls, and it gives me all of the files and folders that are at this level in my folder, my home folder, for this location. And I look at this, I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I have a whole bunch of stuff in here. If I wanted to see that in a little bit more detail, you can do LL for long list, and that'll put them in this type of order where, let me see, clear it. The up arrow also works, so I can go through my command history. And now I look at this and I'm like, wow, this is a lot of detail. So I have all these different things. I'm like, how do I know if they're a folder or not? You come over here, and if there's a D listed right here, that stands for directory. And then these are basically the permissions of who can read and who can write. That's a little advanced. You don't need to worry about that. But it does show you things like who's the owner, the size, when it was created, and things like that. Okay. If I wanted to do ls-a, that shows me what is called hidden files. Okay, so if I come up here, let's show you that right there. This is hidden files. In Linux, you can have hidden files by starting them with a dot. And basically when they're hidden, if you do an ls, it doesn't show it. But if I do an ls-a, it does show it. So it's just a way to kind of keep things clean and hide files that you don't usually use on a normal day-to-day operation. You can even do it with ll-a, and that gives me that. But ls and ll, you use them constantly because you're always trying to figure out like what's in the directory that I'm in. And then you're like, where am I? Present working directory tells me where I'm at. Okay. Now I can also change into directories. So if I said I'm going to change into mod 11 underscore code. I'm going to go ahead and hit tab to autocomplete. Boom. Now I'm in there. It shows me that I'm in there, but I'm like, I need to double check. Present working directory /home /K9. That's kind of cool. Let's see what's in here. So I'm going to do an LL. Oh, look at all this stuff. I got like some files. Look at this one. It's a .c. I wonder if that means it's a program file written in the language C. This is .text. I wonder if that means it's .text. .csv. I think that's a comma separated value form. Interesting. It'll be exciting to learn about all that stuff. Now, if I wanted to go up a directory, I could do cd ... And if I do present working directory, it's like, oh, this is sweet. So it shows me where I'm at. Okay. Now let me go back into like mod 11 again. And I'm sitting here. And if I wanted to return to my home directory, I can just do cd. Okay. That takes me home. Little confusing. In command prompt, cd would return my current directory in command prompt. Over here, if I do cd, it'll return me home. Let's go take a look at what's in home. So if I go ... and I look at this, these are all the users that have accounts on this. As you log into the server for the first time, it'll create a home directory for you, and this will fill up with all these net IDs. And that's how me and the other instructors or the teaching assistants can actually see your files. Okay. All right. If I went one up, I would be like, where am I? Well, this is weird. Let's do LL. What's this? These are all essentially, they're kind of like, they're not really drives, but these are like, if you're ever here, get out. These are all like forbidden. I don't even think you can actually get into this directory, but if you can see these, I don't think it's going to let you go into them. So I'm lost. I need to go home. CD, return. Now where am I at? I'm in my home directory. So it's very handy. CD gets you there. All right. Now let's do this. I'm going to do LL to see where I'm at. And this is kind of interesting. Let's go into temp and see what's in there. I got this thing called btest.txt. Let me remove that. If I wanted to delete that, actually, let me copy it. I can go copy btest. Now I'm going to autocomplete with the tab. And then I'm going to copy it to like btest2.txt. And now I look at it and I'm like, all right, what did I just do? Oh, I created a copy of it. That's kind of fun. Now let me remove it. So I go btest2.2. I'm like, okay, did I remove it? Yes. Okay, nice. I can make a directory. So make directory. And then it's like my, let's call it first Linux directory. And I'm like, did it show me? It's like, yeah, it is. There it is. My first Linux directory. And I can change into it if I want to. And then what's in it? It's like nothing. So I go back up and I say, oh, I'm lost again. Present working directory. And now I'm sitting here going, what's in this current directory? Okay, I got my text file and I got this little fella. If I wanted to remove the directory, watch this. I'm going to try to remove it like a file, my first directory. And it says, no, sir, you are not allowed to. In order to remove a directory, you have to do a -r and then and this -r means recursive. So everything under it, including subfolders and files, is removed. So it kind of like prevents you from accidentally removing a directory because there might be a lot of stuff in there. Okay, this is a mess. I need to clear my screen so I know where I'm at. Present working directory. Okay, very good. I want to go home. I'm going to go. No, I'm not going to go home. Let me see what's in here. btest. I can move. Use an MV. I just do btest autocomplete and I'm going to go btest2.txt. And a move is essentially you can move it to different locations or you can move its file name. I can actually move this up a directory, okay, if I wanted to. All right. Same thing as before though. If you're like getting screwed up in a command, you need to just get out of it. Just do a Control C and it'll get you out of there. And then the history is still there. So if you up arrow or down arrow, it moves through your history. And this becomes really handy when you start like doing stuff that takes a long command. Okay. Now, there is something interesting in Linux. Okay, let me do this. I'm gonna go present working directory, and I want to go home, and then I want to clear my screen. So I'm like sitting here. I'm like, where am I at? And what's in here? Okay, so here's a bunch of folders. Okay, here's a bunch of folders, and it's like this very interesting spring 2020. Let's go into spring 2023. Let's see what's in there. Oh man, look at all these folders. It's like here's all of your lab assignments that you're going to do. Let me go into Let's do one that's really simple. Let's go into lab02 hello world. So lab02 hello world. And let me look at what's in here. And what I have here is a C program. Okay, so I have hello_world.c. That is actually a C program. And we don't know how to look at it yet. We'll learn that in a second. We'll learn that in a different video. But this green one is actually an executable. So if I look over here, you can get an indication that you can execute this because the X is highlighted or the X is present there, but it'll turn it green. So when you make a file that is going to be a C program, you save it as .c. When you compile it, it creates the executable that you can run, and it names it the same thing without an extension. Now here's what I want to show you. I'm gonna try to run this by saying hello world. Okay, so I got hello world. That didn't really autocomplete. Let me hello world. It didn't find it. Now you're going, how in the world did it not find that? It's in the same directory. What's going on is that Linux has this notion of a path. So in the setup of Linux, you can put paths to different locations so that if you go to run a command, like for example, ll, it knows, it searches through all of its paths that have been predefined and it finds it and then it executes it. Okay. Hello world is in the current directory, but it's not in the path. So if you wanted to tell Linux, I want to run the program hello world, I have to actually say, look in my current file or my current location and say hello world. Okay. So if I do that, boom, this is the output of the program. Hello world, my name is Brock Ramirez. That just happens to be what the program did. But in order to execute that, I had to go into the right directory and I had to tell it, this is where the program is. Okay. I call this the Sonny Holland, Sonny Holland. Now is the time. This is the place. That was his famous saying. He's the former Bobcat coach. But anyway, it tells it, it's like, right here is where you execute it. And there you go. Okay. So these are the most common commands that you run in Linux, and these will become second nature as you go. All right. We'll continue in another video. See